It's Wednesday, September 26. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The government is projecting it will spend $17.4 billion more than it initially budgeted for the 2018-2019 financial year. It is now planning to spend $791.1 billion, up from $773.6 billion. These supplementary estimates of expenditure were tabled in the House of Representatives Tuesday afternoon by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. Chief of Defense Staff Major Rocky Meade is suggesting that Parliament consider amendments to the law governing these zones of special operations when it and other related pieces of legislation come up for review. He told the Internal External Affairs Committee of Parliament yesterday that some aspects of the law could be improved.
I will indicate when the opportunity comes for the review of the ZOSO Act and other legislation that there are adjustments that the Parliament might want to consider that may make us even more effective. And we understand that we may have gotten quite constrained legislation initially because you did not know exactly what we would do with the powers. I think you have seen that jointly the two forces have acted maybe beyond your expectations in how we have handled these extraordinary powers that we have gotten. But there are some aspects of the legislation that are not as efficient as they could be. So that's one of the challenges that when the time is appropriate, we may seek to address.
General Meade, along with the Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson and support staff, as well as a permanent secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Diane McIntosh, appeared before the committee to answer questions about the impact of the state of emergency, SOE, now in effect in several areas across the island. The opposition has been clamoring for answers about a timeline for the SOE and whether there is supporting hard data to quantify its effect. ZOSOs are now in effect in Mount Salem, in St. James, Denham Town in West Kingston. Parliament last week approved a 90-day extension of the Denham Town ZOSO up to January 2. The current operation expires on October 2. The police have revealed that 176 people have been detained by the security forces since the state of emergency was declared in sections of the corporate area on Sunday. PBCJ understands that most of the detainees have been released. 15 of the detainees have been described as persons of interest, and they remain in custody. Cabinet has approved the award of a contract in the amount of $7.4 million to Toyota Jamaica Limited for the provision of 159 patrol vehicles for the Jamaica Defense Force. Details are outlined in a ministry paper tabled in the House of Representatives on September 18. Cabinet has also approved a follow-on contract on the amount of $594,000 to Canadian Bank Note Company Limited for the provision of maintenance and support services for the Jamaica passport issuance and control system for a period of 2 years, with effect from June 2017. Central Kingston Member of Parliament Ronald Thwaites is concerned about the quality of low-priced chicken meat, which some U.S. stakeholders are moving to import. There have been several advertisements in Jamaican media by the United States Poultry and Egg Export Council. The council has been appealing to Jamaicans to trust the United States to provide them with safe, delicious and wholesome chicken meat. But Mr. Thwaites told the House of Representatives on Tuesday afternoon that he's not convinced about the quality of the chicken meat, which some of the U.S. companies are attempting to import. He says some of the chickens died years ago.
The other area that I want to point out with a measure of warning is that the advertisements in the press must be taken seriously, that there are a number of producers of poultry meat from the United States who, given their surplus now because of the trade tariffs and disputes where the elephants are contending in the developed countries, they're anxious to dump that chicken meat on us. And if we accept it, it may seem attractive. It may even seem particularly attractive to the school feeding program, but it is going to decimate particularly the small farmers in the chicken industry. And it is going to, many of those chickens that they would export here at low prices suffered tragic death many years ago. And we run the risk of taking them in our apparent need, rather than stimulating our farmers to provide a measure of chicken protein, highly desirable, in ways that can satisfy our children.
Mr. Thwaites says members of the meat industry in Jamaica, including the poultry sector, are ready and willing to contribute to expanding production of locally produced meat.
I had the pleasure of discussing this with members of the poultry industry 3 or 4 years ago, and they were willing. But again, there was a built-in resistance at all levels of the state apparatus for doing the radical thing that was necessary to stimulate local production for this means. It was always easier to come to the minister with an import license for so much flour and for so much bully beef, yes, rather than turning on ourselves and ask how we can do that elementary thing of feeding our own children properly.
Minister Thwaites was speaking Tuesday afternoon during debate on a private member's motion, which he tabled in the House of Representatives. Opposition spokesman on education Ronald Thwaites on Monday urged government to compensate the parents who recently purchased the wrong textbooks for their children who will be sitting the exams under the Primary Exit Profile, PEP, this academic year. However, some quarters have advocated that compensation should be the responsibility of the particular schools which misled the parents and not the Ministry of Education. The National Parents Teachers Association has joined the call for parents to be compensated. Some parents have said that the books they were told to purchase for PEP preparations were being phased out. The Ministry of Education has said some schools may have told parents to buy books which were not a part of the approved list. It promised to carry out a probe in the matter. And the Education Ministry says the report from the National Pilot Performance Task under the PEP shows that the development of critical thinking skills among students is an area that requires focused attention and continued support. The test was administered in June in preparation for the implementation of PEP, which has replaced the Grade 6 Achievement Test, GSAT. PEP was introduced at the start of the new school term earlier this month. A statement from the ministry said the pilot exam enabled it to test its overall readiness to administer the PEP and, quote, equally important, provide meaningful simulation to students ahead of the actual commencement of PEP. Of particular note is the fact the performance task exposed the students to the newest item type, which will form part of their profile at grade 6, end quote. The ministry said it will be using reports on individual students' performance in the pilot exam to further inform its preparations for the full rollout of PEP. In regional news, Caribbean countries have the lowest incidence of tuberculosis, TB, and are on the road to elimination. That's according to the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization. The organizations are reporting that the region of the Americas is the area with the lowest percentage of new TB cases in the world, estimated at 3%, and is the first region with a real opportunity to eliminate the disease as a public health problem. According to the Tuberculosis in the Americas 2018 report, 15 countries, 12 of them from the Caribbean, have low TB incidence with less than 10 cases per 100,000 people, and these countries are on the road to elimination. In sports, JAD Professional Management Limited, the company handling the affairs of former Calabar High and national 400 meters star Javon Francis, has now confirmed that the Olympian will be leaving his local club, Aiken, for a United States-based outfit. In an exclusive report yesterday, the Gleaner said Francis made an attempt to move to another local club but failed to get an agreement and decided to go overseas. His coach, Michael Clark, declined to comment when contacted. In its release, JAD Professional Management said Francis had decided to train in Texas, USA, with coach Daryl Woodson for the 2018-2019 season and beyond. And that's the news. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Pleasant viewing.